Welcome to the podcast where we take a deep dive into the stories behind construction business leaders. We will share how they got started, how they found success, and the lessons learned along the way. I'm your host, Eric Fortenberry. Welcome to Builder Stories. How's it going, everybody? I am excited to be here today with Jeff and Chantal Ballantyne from Ballantyne Builds. They are located in Toronto, Canada. We've been working with them for a good while now. They also work with one of our partners, Randy, with 4-Level Coach. So really excited to have you guys come on. I know Chantal and I have worked quite a bit back and forth on a handful of different things that related specifically to the Canada market. And so I've really enjoyed all of our interactions, and she has helped us tremendously to continue improving JobTread. But finally getting you on here to share your story. So Jeff, Chantal, welcome to Builder Stories.
Hi, we're glad to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us. This is exciting.
Yeah, so why don't you kind of just tell us a little bit about who you are, how did you start your business, what do you guys do? Kind of give us that full the background there.
Yeah, I mean I've been in the industry for my whole life, right through high school. My father was a builder, my brother's a builder. We've been working up north of Toronto in the Muskoka area, so it's a cottage area. So we build mainly on the lakes and so secondary homes and things like that. I've been doing it my whole life. Never went to college or university, just straight into construction. Started working on the sites and doing things like that. And then Chantal and I got married, and she joined the business as well. And
yeah, I had no construction background. Actually, my grandfather was in construction as well, but not my family. And I was working full time, and Jeff got into business, and it was like a slow, can you help me do these invoices? And then I got brought in, and after a few years of being in business, I was able to go full time as well, which was very exciting. I think that was around 2018. We were both able to full time in the business, which was exciting because I always did it on the side in the evenings, and then we've been growing ever since.
yeah, and I mean I worked with my father for many years with the framing and working on the sites, digging the excavation and doing all the stuff, like physically doing all the work ourselves. And then once I got a little older and understood the ropes, I kind of went on my own and started my own business, and then Chantal and I kind of took it from there.
It's awesome. So what year was that when you officially started?
Who was that?
You started 2015, so we're coming up on 10 years.
Awesome.
Yeah, big milestone.
Yes. So Jeff, I mean, I'm curious, like when you first started up, I mean, tell us like what were you initially focusing on? Like what were those first projects that you got?
The first project I got was a big timber frame cottage on this little lake, and I think my father basically just kind of threw me into it and was like, here, I'm too busy, you're gonna have to look after this project for me. So I just kind of went in, and just obviously with my experience in the industry for so many years, learned a lot of lessons along the way, just kind of trial and error, and just every day on site, watching the trades and learning how to deal with people and all the little challenges that come up every day on construction. Is just there's so much of it that you learn so much through the process, through doing it. Yeah,
absolutely. So was that cottage like a totally new build?
It was a total new build. Yeah, it was maybe 4,500 square feet with 3-car garage, and
the most amazing first client you could ask for.
Yeah, very.
He was
thankfully
so nice, so kind, and paid very quickly. So it was
very patient.
It was and he knew it was our first build.
Yeah,
he knew it was like your first time on your own in your own business, and it was good. At that point, we were only doing one build at a time.
Yeah,
nice.
To start it one at a time.
So how did they find you, or did you find them?
It was my father, because it was a referral.
Referral. Okay. So how did I'd say after that, how did the next one come about? Was that referral as well, or?
Yeah, we started because my dad kind of helped us, baby stepped us kind of into it, and then as we started to get known, then we started getting the referrals, and then started getting our own referrals, and our clients were, our biggest thing was client satisfaction right from the beginning. So we always made sure we went the extra mile for them, and we started getting our own referrals over
Nice.
time, and
And actually, until I would say last year, our whole business was still referral based
Wow.
until last year.
Yep.
So it was when we decided we wanted to build bigger, and we knew we couldn't do it just on referrals. So we spent the last, I think, 2 years really focusing on marketing and a bit more sales. And then now it's kind of exciting to see like leads coming in where they've just come from the internet, or they're like, we saw you on like social media, or we saw you on Instagram. And that's kind of cool too.
Yeah, it's definitely a big shift when you've done something right and others just start finding you without you having to have that warm connection coming in first. But I think it sounds like you did a great job on those initial projects to kind of earn those referrals, and that's I think at the end of the day a referral is going to be your best lead all day, hands down, just because someone else has already vouched for you and has promoted you to them. And I certainly love the referrals here. I know it's a big thing. Do you like proactively though, like try to kind of capture that experience, or document like kind of what the project was, and then ask for those reviews? Like is that something that you put a lot of focus on to try to get more out of that?
We do for sure. I would say up until 2021, it wasn't deliberate or active. And then after that, we sort of made this switch also because we did start working with Randy from 4 Level Coach, and there's a lot that he suggested we could be doing. So we did implement what he suggested. And now, yeah, we make sure at the end it's like a pretty nice like welcome to your cottage, and here's a document, like a photo book of like progress pics all the way to the final finished product. And here's the link, please leave us a review. It still feels a little awkward, I think, for us to like remind them when they say like, yeah, we love to give you a review, and then it's been like a few weeks and you're like, okay, but can you please do it? So
How about that?
yeah, can you?
Yeah.
It mean a lot. So we're getting better at that. I think people get busy, and I just have to remind myself of that. And this year, it's our goal to get a few video testimonials. We'd never done that before, but I think it would be nice. And we have a few clients that I think would definitely be willing to do it.
Yeah.
And they have such nice things to say. So we should get it on film.
That's awesome. I mean, I've met a handful of builders who say they actually will bring that up in the sales process, saying like, look, I'm so excited about this job. Like, would you be willing to, let us capture some marketing content and kind of document this process, starting, now going through the build, and then, after we'd like to be able to capture that story. And sometimes we'll even offer them like a discount or some sort of an incentive to allow them to do that. But I think the more important thing that I've heard is that when the customer hears like that you think that this project's going to be like so awesome that you want to like, document it, they know that they're going to put, their absolute all into it, put their best foot forward, because they're, capturing all of that experience. And so, I think that really helps, kind of set the stage for, hey, we would like to do this. And then when the time is right, just be ready for us to ask, hey, we're going to pull out the camera now, are you ready? And I think kind of going into it with that mindset can be really helpful. I'm curious. So Jeff, kind of early on, like when you think back about those first few years before you realize, hey, like, we need to kind of go and figure out, how to do things differently or change, like what would you say were some of the biggest challenges, that you had, or like maybe you didn't expect you would have starting a new business, going into, these new builds on your own? Like what were some of the hardest things that you had to overcome?
I mean, just like, I guess it'd be more on the business side of things. Like I could build a cottage, no problem. It has its challenges here and there, but building a business was a whole other avenue. Something I never built a business before, or I'd never went to school for any of it. I had no idea. So like, knowing, the finances, never
Finances.
Yeah, what's that?
As in what finances?
Yeah, like I had no idea. It's just money in, money out.
Yeah.
You know, there's never ever anything at the end of the year. There was never any left because we had no idea how to manage it. You know, and just like there was no systems, there was none of that. It was just you get up every morning, you go to the job site, you manage all the people, get things done, and every day you just that's all you did, Monday to Friday.
Yeah.
And so yeah, like having to learn the business side of things was the hardest part. And then finally, once Chantal got involved, you know, having that driver, like having that person that's gonna drive the business side of it forward, creating systems and processes and like, okay, we made this mistake, how are we going to change it, how are we going to make it better? And you know, that versus me just, you know, okay, that was an issue, okay, move on to the next one. You know, there's no change. So I find, yeah, like once I've brought Chantal on and she started driving more the business side of things, that's when we really started to pick up a bit.
And I think for me, it was a surprise when I did start getting more involved. Like 2018, we were both full time in it, but we weren't still focusing on the business side. But it was also a shock dealing with so many people, like all the trades and the clients. I mean, the first really terrible client you ever get like scars you a bit. I feel like I still have PTSD from it. But it was a shock. Like it was a shock to realize like, oh, when things go wrong, they could really go wrong. Like if some mistake, or on the construction side, like if a mistake can happen and it can be like a $50,000 mistake. You know, like it was more realizing like, wow, let's try to mitigate all the really wrong things that could happen.
Oh.
So that was, I think, yeah, everything we do is dealing with people. So it was a lot, like it was a learning curve too. Jeff is naturally pretty fantastic at dealing with people. I can be a little more direct or hard hitting. So that there was also that to learn on my side of things. And yeah, and then realizing, oh shoot, we got to be like good business owners if we want this to not be so stressful all the time.
Sure.
I think,
You-
yeah.
Do you guys play a good cop, bad cop ever with your employees or subs?
It seems that way sometimes.
They don't mean it to be, but it feels that way sometimes, that I have to be a bit of the bad cop and Jeff is naturally the good cop. It's,
Yeah.
yeah.
So you know, like when you think about your day to day, like, you know, Jeff, what do you spend your days mostly focusing on now? And Chantal, same for you.
Now that I'm off the job site, I'm doing a lot of like the estimating and just kind of overseeing the guys. So I have 2 site managers. They have like 4 builds each that they look after. And so I kind of they check in with me. They'll call me, text me, you know, I have a question, what should I do here? And so I kind of just oversee them from the office. And then the odd time, like I go out, I don't know, maybe every couple of weeks I'll go out and just pick a couple sites and go see how they're making out and just check on the, you know, the cleanliness of it, or, you know, if they have challenges on site they need me to come look at, I'll go do that for them.
Sure.
But then, yeah, working on the estimating, you know, site visits, going to meet clients, doing the sales, things like that. You know, I like doing it. I like meeting new people, and, you know, so it's been enjoyable.
Yeah.
So-
I feel like also, like you mentioned in the past too, but part of our big problem was Jeff would have time to do sales and then we would get like really busy and then like no sales would happen. So then we would be like not busy at all. And then so we needed Jeff off the site to help drive the sales. And we do a lot of sales meetings together. So we'll go and meet the client initially and do that. Now we switched one of our project coordinators roles this year actually to help us more on in the office, so on estimates and helping you with the finance side. So sales now have been really consistent for the last year because Jeff is constantly driving it and getting back to people quicker, and
Yeah.
you know, not taking 3 months to sort of respond, which would happen, and And then also getting the jobs going. Like the permit process can be painful. And now with Jeff in the office, we notice like, hey, permits are going so much quicker now because like Jeff is there to answer right away. Oh yeah, let me get you that. And so that's been really great.
Those are definitely the things that fall short, I think, with like any builder, contractor, renovator, is like you're so involved on the site that all these things tend to like kind of gets, either
By the way said.
by the wayside for sure. Permits, invoicing, those types of things, like it's so hard to do.
I see it all the time. And, I think it's that, it's that natural tendency for entrepreneurs to just keep putting on every hat and trying to do everything. And it's like, it's just not, not feasible. And, some of my best, kind of most important advice, I think, is to make sure that somebody is always focused on sales. If you're not continually feeding the beast, like making sure that, it's not just about, what you've got in progress today, but it's like thinking ahead. And so many times, just like with you, Jeff, I mean, they sell a job and then they go get wrapped up in that job and they forget that job is going to end and they don't have anything else in line behind it. And so, I think that's awesome that you figured out that you needed to sort of make that transition out, from just, being on the tools all the time to kind of having that higher level focus and focusing on sales. It, seems like it was a really good move for y'all.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And then what I focus, like I'm the business side, finance side, also sort of, looking over, editing, approving all of our marketing content. And then, yeah, the invoicing definitely has gotten busier from 2 jobs to 8. I feel it now. It's a different animal. And then, yeah, overseeing sort of with Jeff all the jobs. And my role is really seeing where there might be some holes that need to be filled and like, what were the mistakes? Have we implemented processes that now address those mistakes so they won't be happening again? And anytime something comes up that maybe feels like a negative experience, whether it was like a mistake or just a rough interaction, I feel like my role has become to see all of those areas and say, okay, have we learned the lesson? Like, have we extracted every bit of knowledge we can get from that experience so that we are better for it going forward?
Sure.
Which probably is why sometimes I'm the bad cop, because that's...
So when you uncover an issue, like let's say there's some issue and obviously it's going to have an adverse effect on the client experience. Like what's the protocol? What do you do?
I mean, I think we have meetings every month where we sit down with the team and we go, okay, what are the issues we have had this month? Okay, what are we gonna do? We all talk it out. Okay, how can we avoid that? And then we kind of just chat about it. We have, okay, maybe we could have contacted this person, or maybe we need a bigger checklist. Like in JobTread, in our schedule, we've built out all these checklists along we have 200 and
yeah, I think we're up there now,
like
250,
something like that. Right?
Wow.
So like in every little step, there's a checklist in there for foundation or whatever. You got to check this. And so it's like a matter of, let's chat about it. Do we need to add to our checklist? Are we reviewing our checklist to make sure that we're not missing anything, and just reviewing the issues and just trying to figure out going forward, what can we do?
Yeah,
I love that.
When it comes to like client stuff, I think from the very beginning, and certainly in the last like 5 years, our sole focus has been the client experience. We acknowledge and we were part of it. Like construction can sometimes be pretty brutal and like people get really stressed having to build a new cottage because it's such a terrible experience sometimes to get to the finish line. So we thought, what can we do that makes it a really wonderful experience? There's obviously going to be issues, but how do we manage them so that our client always feels like they're in really good hands, that they're in the loop? So we got some negative feedback from clients in the past, and they're like, you need to tell us things. And I think Jeff always felt like our job was to solve the problems and find solutions and not necessarily loop in the client. And now it really is like the whole team knows you keep the client in the loop, but like if there's a problem, just let them know or call them and say, hey, this was something that happened. Like the installer was putting in a window, he dropped it and it fell 2 stories down into your basement, and whatever it was. letting them know and always having the solution when we call the client. So, or a number of solutions that they can pick which way they want to proceed. So we've really focused on communication.
Yeah.
And making sure that the client always knows what's going on. They should never be shocked if they're going to pop up to the site on a weekend. They shouldn't be surprised that anything's there. Like, we do use JobTread fully from start to finish. We use, I think, every single possible part of the program now, which has been, a year process. But actually, last week we have a brand new client that we met at a trade show, didn't know us at all. And during our sales process, we show them that we use JobTread. We show them some of the features. We're like very transparent. Even in our invoicing, they see every single trade invoice. So he said, between us and a couple other builders, we were a bit pricier, but he went with us because he loved our process and how we go about things. And then last week he said, I signed up with you guys because of how you do everything you do and how transparent you are, and I'm not disappointed. He's like, it's been amazing. I haven't felt the need to even go up to the site because your daily logs are posted and you keep me in the loop on everything. You message me back right away, and it's been really wonderful. And he's in love with the process, which is our goal.
Yeah, I think just being so, over communicative and just upfront and transparent and honest. I mean, at the end of the day, that is the only way to do it. Like when I see contractors trying to hide and bury mistakes and issues and think that the homeowner won't find out, it's like, man, that often, maybe you get away with it once or twice, but it's the times that you don't get away with it where you're risking your reputation. You're risking so much more than just that one, little thing on that job that, again, if you just come out with it and you communicate and say, hey, here's what happened, if it was, your fault, fall on the sword. I think people will appreciate that, and they know, and they expect, look, things will come up, mistakes will happen. It's the times when people try to, shift the blame and point the finger and say, oh, that wasn't our fault, or not take responsibility. At the end of the day, the customer doesn't care. They just need to know that you're going to make it right, and that, whatever needs to be done will be done, and that it won't keep happening. And I think, your approach to just, being upfront with them and calling them and saying, hey, here's our options. Here's what we want to do. And we just wanted to make you in the loop. I mean, even things that maybe the homeowner would never have found out anyways. I think those are great moments where you can really show, how genuine and how, just upfront and honest and ethical you are, even bringing those points up, because, a lot of times they realize, well, yeah, okay, sounds good. It's like no harm, no foul, but they that builds so much trust. And I think that at the end of the day, it really is. It's all about that client experience. That's what people are going to remember. You could have two builders build the exact same quality product, but the thing that the customer will remember is the experience going through that process. And that's what will ultimately earn you those referrals.
Yeah. And I feel that it opens a door that you don't want to open. It's, if they're hiding this, what else are they hiding?
Exactly.
Right? They just automatically lose trust in you, and then it just goes downhill from there.
And it's natural, right? You never want, it's natural human instinct to want to save face, but we really try to tell the team they don't care. Honestly, they'll care more if you try to put the blame on someone else or try to hide it than if you're just like, hey, we made a mistake, this is how we're fixing it. And they'll be like, okay. Even recently, we're finishing up a cottage, and the painter was staining the last bit of trim and dropped the whole can of stain all over the carpet. It can't be fixed, but we called the client and we're like, hey, your carpet looks disgusting. We can't fit, it can't be cleaned out. We've already ordered the new carpet for that area. It will come, we'll install it. Yes, your cottage will be finished and it won't look perfect, but it will be fixed shortly thereafter. And he was like, yeah, well, mistakes happen. It's fine. Thanks for letting me know.
Yeah.
So I think it feels scary sometimes to admit when you've made a mistake or something bad has happened, but it needs to be dealt with, and you just move forward. So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, and I love too how you have the monthly meetings with your team. I mean, so many people, they don't take the time to stop and reflect on what's working, what's not working, what can we do better, how do we prevent, these issues in the future. I mean, like, those are such great, like, learning moments and training moments for everyone else. And I think too, it can often be disarming, when your subs and when your employees see, the owners coming in saying, man, like, I screwed up, here's what happened, like, here's what we want to do differently. Like, again, you can build that same trust and earn that same respect from your team, because obviously, like, nobody wants to work on a team that's just, like, constantly screwing up and not admitting and just kind of, blaming everyone else. Like, I think you really kind of build that strong team by having those interactions and taking that time, which, again, I hear people, it's like, oh, well, we can't afford to take a morning out of the week or out of the month or whatever it may be. And it's like, you got to reframe, what are we prioritizing, and building that team and building our processes and making sure that we're continually improving. That's such a valuable thing. And I love that you guys have already dedicated that time to doing that, and have that feedback loop, where you can continue to improve.
Yeah, and I think it's important that, like Chantal and I are always that way, like just constantly trying to improve constantly. That now our team now has that same mindset, so like they've started to build that mindset that, oh, I made a mistake, or I did this, or I did that. Like, how can we improve? And when the whole team gets involved in it, then it's like crazy growth, and it goes way quicker when everyone's on the same page.
Yeah. What does what's your team look like today? Like,
we have 2 site managers, a project coordinator, and then the estimating and office coordinator that helps us. So there's 6 of us. So 3 that are more dedicated to the sites, and then 3 of us in the office that are more client facing and
Sales
and dealing with the business, and which is nice. And I just want to loop back to, like, making the time for it, because I feel like in the last few years, there's a lot of things that we've done that felt like there was no time to do. But if you sort of block out that time, like, we get together every Wednesday with, like, a builder group in 4 level, and it's so crucial to just be able to take that time, one, to sort of reflect on your business, but hear what other builders are going through, and learn from it. It's always great when you can learn from other people's mistakes too.
Yeah.
But there's a lot. Even I remember trying to change our finances, and, like, we do like profit first, where we put money aside. And at first it felt like, well, there's no money, how are we going to do that, how's it going to work? But it did work. So I feel like when you just commit and put the time aside, then you see the rewards pretty quickly. Like,
Yeah. And I feel like that accelerates your business, honestly, quicker than anything. If you just block out that time and focus just on, like, the business itself, like how the way it operates, or whatever, finances or whatever, like, you just focus that time on the business, you need to, because or else you're going to hit a ceiling, you're never going to spend any time on it, and then you're just going to get stuck there. So you need to, like, block that time out, focus, an hour a week or a couple hour, whatever, just on the business side of things. And that's what's going to drive your business so much faster.
Also, I don't know that there's anything more frustrating than making the same mistake multiple times and having it cost you money over and over again. So we were like, hey, what if we just make sure that we are putting in the processes so that it doesn't happen again? It's been it is really great. It's good.
Yeah, that's awesome. Pretty sure, like, I think the definition of insanity is, like, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different outcome. So yeah, it's I tell my team, I mean, I would rather people try and fail than to never have tried in the first place. Like, I think there's so much value that you can get, from that experience and trying something new and taking a risk, as long as, you can own what happened, whether it worked or didn't work, and then learn from it, and don't make those same mistakes twice. I think a lot of times, people have this kind of this fear of failure, or fear of doing something different, because, that it might not work out, and it creates all this anxiety and these, it's like, man, like, no, like, if we built the right team, if we've hired the right people, we have the right partners, like then you got to trust them, and you got to give them that leeway to go and try to do things that might improve your efficiency or might improve, the end result or whatever it may be. And I think when the team understands that, like, just as long as you own the mistake, it's okay. We're not going to fire you, that first time. Now, if you do it 2, 3, 4 times, I mean, now we got a problem. But, I think it's, it is a good thing for companies, because, just like you guys said, like, you have to be continually focusing on how do we improve? How do we get better? These things aren't going to just like automatically or naturally or magically happen. It takes that focus and that effort to make it happen. I'm curious. So, we kind of talked a minute earlier, but like, I want to understand more about, what was it like kind of leading up to the point where you realized that you needed to go find, something to help to take the business to the next level. Like, how did you all find, Randy and 4-Level Coach, and what was the, what was the state of the business before that? And then what were you looking for, and what kind of lured you in, and kind of what was that impact that it made?
We were at a point, I guess, in our business where it didn't feel like it was worth being in business anymore. Like, it was so stressful. We weren't making any money. Chantal was having meltdowns constantly.
Almost daily.
Almost daily.
It was, yeah. So it was through the pandemic, which was a hard time for everyone in construction anyway. We came across our very first terrible client experience, which was really hard for me. And it dragged on. But like, yeah, it just felt, I was like, for the amount of money we're making, I could go and find a different job. That's much less stressful. I'd be home at 5:30. Like, I wouldn't have to worry in the evenings or the weekends. Like, there are better things we could do with our lives for the amount of money and like for the stress that we're currently going through. And so Jeff was looking, I think, around, and
yeah, and I was like, okay, we got to do something different here. Looking around online, found Randy, a 4-Level Coach, started contacting him, chatting with him. And I just liked everything that he was doing, like this platform. And I liked that it was, like tangible stuff that we had, like that we could implement right away. It wasn't like a motivational thing. I didn't need motivation. I just need someone to tell me, what do I need to do? What are the next steps here? This is where we're at in our business. This is the mess we're in. How do we get out of it?
and I think anyone looking at us at that point, it still looked like a great business.
Yeah.
Like, it's still, we were producing really beautiful cottages, and like, so, but it was just the internal aspect of it was so bad. It was just it was just the two of us. We had just hired our first employee to help, but we didn't even really know what to do with her. We're just like, we know we need help, but we're not sure the best way to sort of, and she's still with us now, and we always thank her for sticking it out, because we're like, we really threw you into the mess and didn't know what to do with you, and her role has changed 3 times, but I think we've nailed it now.
Yep.
And yeah, and when we met Randy, like, we weren't even using QuickBooks. We never tracked our finances. At the end of the year when we did taxes, that's sort of when we found out how it was going. Jeff was making a decent salary. I was being paid so poorly, and it was, yeah, like, Randy was like, okay, first we gotta sort out the finances. And once we did that and figured out how to charge and what we needed to charge in order to hire help so that Jeff could get off the job sites, that made a huge difference. So that's where we started, and then it all went from there. And we were pretty dedicated to taking like the little consistent actions every time. And sometimes it felt really hard, and I did melt down a lot, because it can be really daunting when you're like, oh my gosh, there's so much we need to overhaul. But we still like would set our vials for the quarter and just plod away at it. And it's pretty crazy when you look back and realize how far you've come. I remember after the first year writing down everything that we'd accomplished, and I was like, holy crap. And it didn't affect the bottom line until like 2 years later, but it was cool to see, like, wow, we've done so much, and it didn't feel like that much in the moment. It's just
Wow.
like little bits consistently.
Yeah, it just listening to you talk, it feels like there was like this like this transformation for not only the business but yourselves personally.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It really was. It was, well, it's not easy to be a mom either when you're crying all the time. Like it was hard. It was affecting. There's no way as entrepreneurs with a small business that it can't affect your personal life. So it makes a massive difference.
Dealing with young kids at home, plus all this stress.
Yeah.
It's a lot for sure.
I hear you.
Yeah. So now it's, we took our first vacation last year where neither of us did any work or took any work calls for a whole week.
Nice.
And that was really exciting. And
Yeah, we're definitely starting to see it now. Like after a couple of years of just, one little bite at a time, plugging away at it, just working away at it. And now we're starting to see the fruits of our labor, which is great.
That's awesome. I mean, I know, Randy, the thing I really like about him and 4Level is just the focus on the financials. And he, I think he's got a claim that like he'll come in and help you find at least like $50,000 or something like that, like immediately. And, it's so important that people understand their numbers and understand, cash flow. I mean, cash flow is the single, number one thing that will kill a construction company if you don't manage it. Over time, as you take on more projects and the projects get larger, the dollars are getting larger and the cash flow, but also the liabilities, and being able to kind of manage that. And I love, just how in tune he is and how that is where he starts. I mean, that's kind of the same with JobTread. When we built this out, like, instead of focusing on all the project management features and scheduling and all that, it's like, man, like if we're not going to make any money on this job, what is the point in scheduling it? Like, let's make sure we understand the numbers. And so I think Randy and I have always connected on that. And, it sounds like, I mean, not even using QuickBooks. I mean, I hear it all the time. So many business owners are running, their business thinking that, they're just kind of tracking it in Excel and we'll sort of figure something out at tax time. You never really know. And it's like, man, like you got to have the right systems and those right foundations put in place to enable the financial tracking. Otherwise you're flying blind,
yeah.
And so I think it sounds like that was like probably a really big transition for you all, but that started to give you visibility, which in turn gave you more comfort and understanding of, hey, here are the key, levers that we need to focus on. And yeah, if you're not pricing the job right, again, we're shooting ourselves in the foot right out of the gate. What is the point? We're doing this, and it sounded like you guys were in that kind of that cycle where it's just kind of you're just churning and churning and churning, but not making anything, not being able to feel like you're growing the business. So I'm really excited. I mean, it sounds like it was a huge transition for you guys to join Randy and his group.
Yeah. And I'm like, not to put it, but like JobTread also is a big reason our business now, we have tried 2 other programs and then we found JobTread. We really liked it. And like, I think it's cool you worked with me to get the finance side for Canada locked in. But it also allows what we've noticed, which we didn't see in the beginning too, is it allows Jeff and I to keep a really good eye on the business from our computer. Because, our project coordinator, that's the only way they communicate with our clients. And then
In the trades.
and then like the logs, like we can see what's going on site. We can see how quickly we're getting back to clients, how quickly we're getting back to trades. Like we do everything from like the proposals right through. We track, like bills, invoices, the POs, everything is in there.
Yeah, all communication files, everything.
And it also allows us when we are on vacation and tempted to check in, we can quickly look in. But it is different. Our lives are completely different than a few years ago. And from last year to this year, it took, I think, a couple years for the momentum to really show up based on all our work. And like we've more than doubled our revenue from last year. Our net profit is out so those numbers too, like there's all the intangibles that we feel, but then it's also nice to see in black and white.
Net profit wasn't even in our vocabulary.
June.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, I love hearing those success stories. And Chantal, look, I got to tell you, I mean, I was like shocked, when I saw the effort that you were having to put in to every single job in JobTread to deal with the Canadian tax situation
Mm.
and just how just it is a little bit different. And so like I was like, man, I don't know how she has stuck it out this long. I am so grateful. I mean, you literally taught me so much about what needed to be done. And like, if it wasn't through being able to work with you and a few other Canadian builders out there, like, I don't think this would have happened. And so I'm just like, I'm so grateful for, the fact that you didn't quit on us and that you just kind of kept doing it. And you let me say, look, I promise it's coming. We're working towards it. We definitely got really lucky to have the QuickBooks Intuit developer who we were working with just so happened to be in Canada and understood that situation too. And again, just through our partnership with Intuit, the fact that we were able to get him and he could point to exactly what we needed to do and how we needed to set it up differently. I mean, like that made a huge impact. And we have had tremendous growth in Canada because of the developments that we've been able to push out, with your help. So thank you for not giving up on us. I am eternally grateful for that.
Yeah. And and we stuck it out because we like the operational side. Like our schedule that we built out, that's, over 250 points now, and like the checklists and like to-dos and assigning tasks. And it's something we're focusing on more in 2025 is like really utilizing that as a team. So like the small things don't fall through the cracks. But yeah, so we stuck it out because we also love like the operations side and how well that was working for us. And we thought some of the features were really, really cool and useful.
And it's great that you guys were willing to work with us and sort it out instead of just being like, forget it, don't worry about it, right? So
Yeah.
it's kudos to you guys.
I think we are one of the only software companies that has been able to sort of crack this, this Canadian dual tax, crazy tax scheme that
Which
I don't
is
know. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen, to be honest.
Oh,
But I feel for you. I feel like, man, like they're really making it hard for entrepreneurs over there.
oh.
Mm.
I
But-
guess the trade-off is like free education and healthcare, I guess. I don't know. Just,
You must justify it somehow.
yeah. But yeah, it's been a really cool journey the last few years. I feel like we wouldn't have considered ourselves business owners a few years ago. Like we created jobs for ourselves, and now we feel like we can actually call ourselves business owners, and we use all these tools, and
It's exciting to get out of bed in the morning when you're not just like going to a job site and you're not making any money. It's kind of hard to get out of bed.
Yeah.
you're being yelled at.
And you're getting screamed at by clients.
Yeah. No, and I, when I've reflect back on all of my, starting up businesses, my entrepreneurial journey, and just like talking to others, I mean, it truly is like a roller coaster being an entrepreneur and a business owner, and like the things that get thrown your way. Like you have to solve the hardest problems that nobody else is able to solve. And like, I like to describe it. It's like being on a roller coaster. I mean, it's, you got your ups, you got your downs, those downs can get, can get really tough, and it feels like you're in a free fall, and where's the bottom? When am I going to hit it? But, eventually you do hit it. And, I think at the end of the day though, like, it's thanks to those kind of those downs that, when you do start to pull up and you do start to have those highs, like it makes them that much better. And at the end of the day, what I always encourage everyone is to just like, understand this is a journey, that this isn't just a, we're going to go from point A to point B. It is a long marathon that we're having to run here. And when you can just, just learn to appreciate it for what it is and not let those downs get you, so down and beat yourself up to the point where, most people will throw in the towel and quit. But I think now that you've gone through that and you've come back up, it makes you appreciate even more what you have built and the success that you have created, the adversity and everything that you've gone through. You might not have that same appreciation and respect for what you've been able to accomplish if it was, just super easy. I mean, if it was easy to build a business, I mean, everybody would be doing it.
Right.
And but it's not, and I think that's what makes, those great business owners and entrepreneurs and those amazing companies. They're the ones that, it's easy for anybody to win in a bull market when times are easy and everyone's, just spending money. But, it's the true test of a business is going through, the harder markets and the bear, times where, it's not easy, and you got to be able to weather that storm. And, you all did. And, that's that I think has truly made your business that much better and that much stronger, knowing that, like, again, whatever's coming your way next, like, you're gonna be able to handle it and overcome. And I think all entrepreneurs need to sort of, understand what you're getting into. This is not going to be easy, but it doesn't mean that you can't make it. And finding the right people, finding the right tools, implementing the right processes, like, doing these kind of these basic blocking and tackling is how you set yourself up for success. You have to build that foundation to create your company off of. And, I mean, again, however long it takes you to kind of get to that point, and it sounds like, you went at it for several years, but you got there. And now I'm fairly confident you wouldn't want to go back. But, again, it's giving you that insight and that knowledge on how do we keep growing and how do we keep building? How do we put the next level, take it to the next level, one after another? And, that's kind of I hope everyone can kind of take away, that from your story, because, like, this is exactly the story that I want people to hear, is that it's not going to be easy and you are going to want to quit. But again, like, you can make those moves that you guys made and you can work your way out of this and you can build a great business.
Yeah, 100% agree. Yeah, it's definitely, the challenges are what actually makes your business better.
Yeah.
It's the unfortunate thing, but you definitely have to go through the challenging clients and the challenging situations for you to say, like, okay, well, how are we going to do better next time? But you got to have that mindset of, how are we going to do better? If you're just sticking it out, one shitty client at a time, it's not going to work. But you got to have that mindset of, okay, how do we do better next time?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're always thinking, okay, what's the lesson? Even if it doesn't really seem like there was something preventable or we could have changed it, all the time we're like, okay, but could we, or like, how would we go about it differently? Like, is there something we would have done differently? And yeah, what's the lesson? And also when it's going through like those hard parts, because even in the good times, even when your business is like on the way up, there's those months that are super hard, and we're just like, hey, what's the next thing we need to do? Put one foot in front of the other until we get out of it. And then, although you don't feel this way. Sometimes even now though, I'm like, oh, things are going so well. What's the thing that's going to happen? And then, as you said, I have to remind myself that it doesn't matter what's going to happen. We'll get through it. Like, we've learned enough, and that's like, gather up the wisdom as you keep going, and then you get through anything.
Yeah.
That's good.
No. Do you guys, I assume, are you setting goals for yourself now? Do you have, annual goals? Do you create that budget for the business?
Yeah. This time of year, going to the new year, I map out our ideal year going forward. Last year we did just over 3 million, and originally we set the goal for 6 this year, and then we blew past it. We were almost at 7.5. So we're seeing how much of a stretch goal we're going to set for next year. I'll map out the year. And so, yeah, and we're also leveling up and forcing ourselves to sort of say no to the smaller projects that we don't want to do anymore to make room for the bigger and better projects. But we have a hard time not wanting to grow and do better and get bigger and just see where it goes. So
that's awesome. Is there a like a 5 or 10 year plan, or what's the bigger vision? Like, what do you what do you ultimately hope to do with the business?
Randy definitely has some ambitious goals for us. So yeah, like, he wants us to like 10x our company, and he's fully invested and fully convinced. And like, we're starting at first, we were like, this is crazy. There's no way. And now that we look at it and we look at that number, what it would look like, and we kind of worked backwards and like broke it all down, and he kind of went through it with us and was like, this is what it could look like. Now where you guys are now in your business, basically you're just multiplying it, because like, we've have all these systems and people and things in place. It's just like, now we just got to multiply it. And it's kind of crazy to see, because now you're like, oh, well, you know what? That does look feasible.
And
yeah, it looked that crazy.
Here, it seemed crazy to get to where we are now. So like, okay, well, Let's just trust it and keep going.
Yeah, I think this was our 10-year goal, was to get to 7.5 million or around there.
So
Did it in 2 years.
It's awesome. I love hearing that.
So our bigger goals is like time. We don't want to have to spend much time in the business. We sort of want to put people in place so that we're overseeing it. And maybe like Jeff has other business ideas, so maybe that's what will happen. And we had 2 boys, so Jeff's 3rd generation builder. Maybe it will go to 4th generation, but if not, the goal is definitely to get it to a point where we could sell it if it's not going to be taken over by one of our kids. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
So I'm curious, and I'm always it's always interesting to get to interview the spouses working together, and I just like to ask, like, so what's it like, with the work-life balance? Like, do you talk shop at the kitchen, dinner table? Like, how does it kind of, how do you manage the personal versus the work?
I mean, yeah. Oh, yeah, at 10:30 at night, if you ask me, I'm trying to sleep. Ask me questions. What about this? I mean, what should we do tomorrow for this? And it is our life, right? Like, the business is our life. It's what provides for our kids and everything. And it's all we do all day. We work I work right here at this desk, and she works right here. And I don't know,
We work really well together.
You work really, we're opposites.
Yeah.
So it works out well.
Yeah, I don't know. It's we like it. I think now it's at the point we honestly couldn't imagine doing anything else or living any other way. I have to remind myself sometimes to stop talking about business. Now we're getting into the holidays, so trying to like shut down and just enjoy some time with family for a couple weeks. I definitely do bug Jeff sometimes when he's trying to sleep. Yes, but I don't know. In his life, there's no line that's just one is the way
No.
you live.
I love it. I mean, and that's I would say I can very much resonate with that, and it's just so awesome though, and I can tell how happy and passionate you all are, like, working together on this, and like just take so much pride in, like, what you're creating for your family, for your kids, this legacy that you're going to be able to leave behind. I mean, I think at the end of the day, like, that's the greatest thing that that you could really ever ask for. And it's I think a lot of people, you see all the stories where it's like they try to involve family and work together, and it just ends up in this, huge catastrophe, just, cat fighting all day long. And, I get to work with my dad here every day. I mean, he's my CFO. And,
Cool.
I used to get asked, kind of, still get asked, but like, earlier on when I got asked, what's it like working with your dad? And it's like, well, it's kind of like the 80-20 rule. Like, 80% of the time we love each other. 20% of the time we're going for the jugular,
Yeah.
but I think over time, it's really more like, I call it 95-5 or even better than that. And when you can really learn to appreciate the opportunity to work with your family, I mean, I think that is the number one thing for me, is that, like, I get to work with my dad every single day. Now, I like that I get to be his boss, but it's something that just, like, at the end of the day, like, if you can make it work, it's awesome. And it's the greatest thing ever, getting to come into work with your family and doing this together. And I love how it creates that culture, for everyone else to sort of feel like a family, they feel like they're part of that extended family there. Now, on the same token, I mean, I tried to get my wife to help me early on in JobTread, and she definitely did. She came on and said, look, I'll make some calls and help you do a little bit of sales. And, I think she did it for a week or two. It's like, this isn't quite my thing. I want to help you, but I don't think this is right. And, I was like, all right, no worries whatsoever. I appreciate, even the thought. And, I think for some people, it's just not meant to be. You got to make sure people are really passionate and they're in the right roles, doing the right things. It sounds like you all have a very clear, separation of responsibilities. Jeff focusing on the estimating, the kind of managing the crews, overseeing everything. Chantal focusing on the finances, the office, the, kind of everything, in that part. And so, it's nice that you've got that clear sort of, very set roles and responsibilities where you complement each other.
Yeah.
And I think that's where it doesn't always work if you got two people trying to do the same thing, or, kind of overlapping. But yeah, I love that you all have been able to figure out how to make it work. And, it seems like things are going really well for you at this point. I'm know it's not always that way.
Yeah.
I can only imagine having 2 young kids. I've got I have a 7-year-old daughter and a 6-year-old son now. They're 14 months apart. So, I definitely know what it's like, especially when they're younger, going through the very challenging times. But, yeah, seems like you guys have got it figured out now.
Yes. Most of the time. Sometimes it's still a mess, but that's okay. Yeah. And we actually, Jeff's dad does a lot of our site prep still and works with us. So we get to be with his dad often. And his grandfather makes us sort of those Muskoka chairs. I don't know what you guys would call them, Adirondack chairs, maybe, or, those lake house chairs
Yeah.
that go. So he takes scrap wood from the sites and creates chairs. We give them to our clients as gifts. And
That's awesome.
it is. The family part is really important to us. And
Yeah, it's everyone's life.
yeah.
Yeah.
The whole family. They're all involved some way or somehow.
Yeah.
So in wrapping up here, I'm kind of the last thing I'd like to ask you. I mean, like when you think back just about this entire journey that you've been on, what advice would you give to others who are somewhere on their own journey earlier on, trying to, figure things out, going through those same challenges? Like, is there anything that, really sticks out that like you know now that you wish you would have known earlier, or just, kind of any, what would be the best advice that you might be able to leave for others?
I would say get help. Like join a builder group or something, or like we did, like we got involved with Randy's builder group, and then that way you can kind of hear from other builders and their challenges, because they're all going through the same thing, and you're gonna succeed a lot quicker, and you're gonna relieve a lot of the stress and headaches by like hearing what other builders have to say, and maybe you do differently in your business, no matter where you are. I think I wish I would have did that 10 years ago, and we would have probably been a lot bigger, faster, and wouldn't have had to go through as many struggles.
I don't know that they made us pretty great, but
They did, yeah.
but the mentorship, we would for sure not be where we are without it. So
Yeah.
yes, and like actually implement, like do the work. Sort of, okay, what's the first thing I gotta fix, and just it's gonna feel overwhelming. It will feel so daunting because there's so much to change, but like little bit by little bit, just keep taking those steps forward, and every improvement sort of gives you that hope that it can be that much better, and go from there. And make sure you're not letting those like challenges or issues or negative experiences go by without extracting every like lesson you can from it, because that is how we've gotten to the business that we're at now.
Yeah. And I think a key is having someone, if you can get somebody into your business that is more like Chantal is like a driving force
For the business.
for the business side of things. Like if you can get somebody in, whether it's in the office or whatever, that can help you implement systems and things like that, and set up JobTread, or like these tasks that most people don't have time for if they're on the site every day. That's going to be a huge needle mover for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's very, very sound, awesome advice. I appreciate you guys sharing that, and thanks for coming and spending the time to share your story. I mean, like I said, I think that this is case in point. This is the story that entrepreneurs need to hear and see, that you can build a very, very successful business when you make the right moves, you put in the effort, you implement the things that you're learning from mentors, from coaching groups, from whoever it may be. Like, just build the right team, set up the right processes, do right by your clients, take care of them, focus on the client experience.
Mm-hmm.
And again, you can have a very, very successful career building a construction contracting business. And I think you all are doing a great job showcasing that, and leading by example. I really appreciate everything that you all have done for just even the JobTread community, and for us, and for helping us continue to improve. It's one of my favorite sayings is a rising tide lifts all boats. And
Yeah.
I think this is how when you find the right people, when you build your own network of people who are going through the same thing. Like, you know, you can help each other and you can get better every day, day by day. And that's what it takes. So, you know, just thank you all for being such great leaders out there in the community, for driving and building a great business that you've got. And I'm really excited to see you all both at JobTread Connect in January.
Time
Really,
in Dallas.
yeah, and probably hopefully be a little bit warmer than what it might be like up there, but you know, it should be a really awesome event. And I appreciate you all. Again, thank you for coming on and sharing your story.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of Builder Stories. We hope you enjoyed the conversation and gained valuable insights that can help you in your journey along the way. Don't forget to subscribe to the show and leave us a review. And as always, if you or someone you know has a story to share, please contact us at builderstories.com. We'd love to hear from you. I'm Eric Fortenberry, and remember, every builder has a unique story. Keep building yours.